Welcome to the Fray Dogg Gaming Channel. I am your host, the Fray Dogg, and today in Gaming on a Budget Episode 3, we have Tom Clancy's The Division, which just came out this week. I've been super excited for this since it was initially announced a couple years ago. I've been following it. I played both the closed and the open betas on Xbox One. Probably spent, I don't know, probably 8-10 hours in each beta. There was only so much you could do, so I didn't want to burn myself out too quickly, but I had a lot of fun. Played with some friends through that. And this is what I consider to be a third-person shooter slash RPG. There is a level progression system in place, but by and large, it is dependent upon teamwork and shooter mechanics. So it's not necessary that you play with friends, but you are going to have a hell of a better time if you have some buddies that you can play with. You can do a lot of the missions solo. There is a great matchmaking system in place so that if you want to tackle one of the story missions and you don't think you can do it alone, you can find other players to take on that mission with you. I would highly recommend that you run with a headset because a lot of these scenarios, you need to coordinate your efforts. The enemy AI is pretty smart. They will flank you, they will grenade you, they will suppress you. So you definitely want to, if you're going to play with some friends whenever possible if you're tackling missions. Right now you're looking at some footage from kind of the intro section of the game. You start out in Brooklyn. It kind of puts you through your paces to learn the gameplay mechanics. It's a little bit forgiving, but not too much. Basically teaches you how to play the game before it throws you out into the massive area of Manhattan, which is where you started in the open and closed beta. So if you played either of the betas, it starts you off roughly at your character will be at level 4, and that's pretty much where you are when you get through Brooklyn. Up until you get into Manhattan, you are playing solo, so it gets you used to that. Once you get to Manhattan, you're able to link up with buddies or Randys, to do the missions. I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I am highly recommending this. It's well worth the $60. You are going to get a ton of enjoyment out of this game. If you like either shooters or shooter RPGs, if you like the loot grind of like a Diablo or a Destiny, and you'll like this game. If that's not your gig, if you're not really into shooters, it is still sort of an action game, but by and large, I think you'll enjoy it if you're into any of those games like that. It's not as sci-fi as Destiny. It does sort of have a little bit of sci-fi feel to it, but by and large, it's more along the lines of a shooter. It is the loot grind of a more like a Diablo than a Destiny. I feel like, because you are getting, or at least my experience has been, you're getting a ton of loot drops. You're constantly managing your inventory and trying to make room. This game is huge. I've sunk, like I said, I sunk a ton of time into the betas. So far, I think I've put, it came out on Tuesday, it's now Sunday. I've probably put about, 15 to 20 hours into it this week. And a bulk of that has been playing with friends, but last night I put in 4.5 hours just soloing, running side missions, collecting intel, upgrading my base of operations. There's a ton of stuff for you to do. So even if you're typically playing with your friends, but they might not be on at a particular time, there's still a ton of stuff for you to do by yourself, and you can get lost in the game. It's a huge world. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of random encounters that you will run into. It really is an in-depth game. And one of the things I really like about it is, with most, I don't want to say similar games, because I don't really think there's an equal that you could point to and say, oh, it's competing directly against this. But one of the things I really like about it, as opposed to, say, Destiny, is, with Destiny you have your three guardian classes, if you will, and once you select one of those, you're locked into that while you're playing as that particular character. With the Division, it allows you to change up your playing style based on however you feel at that particular time. I mean, if you're going to be running solo, you can spec your character out a little different than if you're running a mission with some buddies. It allows you that flexibility. Once you unlock a certain ability, it's always available to you. So you may, if you're running solo, you may want to have some sort of a healing ability, as well as maybe a defense, a turret, right? So you might want to put down a turret to help you suppress some enemies, but you also want to have the healing ability to boost yourself up without having to use your med kits. If you're playing with a bunch of buddies and you're going to tackle a mission, well, it allows you to switch up your playstyle without changing your character at all. You just go in, you respec your guy. Maybe you're going to provide Overwatch, so you're going to go with a sniper rifle and maybe a submachine gun as your secondary weapon. And perhaps you're going to, use some of the cover-based abilities instead of the healing and or turret abilities. And you might have a buddy that's going to, be the point man, and he may deploy that turret and maybe have a ballistic shield, and you could run the next mission and vice versa, and just swap it out accordingly. I mean, you do have to, I recommend, hanging on to, or at least keeping in your inventory, a variety of weapons so that you can switch it up on the fly. The other nice thing is, you could be, using a sniper rifle, but if you run out of sniper, marksman ammo, you can always switch that out to, say, an assault rifle, and as long as you have assault rifle ammo, you can use that. The enemies are always dropping ammo. They're always dropping loot. And if you run out of all your ammo, you still have your sidearm, which has infinite amounts of ammo. I know that's a little lame, but it is nice, because some of these missions can get tough, especially if you're running them solo. But they are pretty good about leaving restock crates all over the place. So typically you don't have to worry too much about where your ammo is. You can really focus on the gameplay and your strategy for tackling certain situations. And there are a lot of situations that you find yourself in. There's a bunch of different enemy types. There's the cleaners. They're out there with flamethrowers and stuff, trying to clean up the city. Or at least they think they're trying to clean up the city. They're really just torching people. And then there's just gangs, looters, rioters, all sorts of nonsense going on. And there's all sorts of stuff for you to collect. There's all sorts of little side missions that reward you with either blueprints or items or resources to upgrade your base of operations. And by and large, this is a single player story driven game. There is a multiplayer element to it in the dark zone, and it's not really like a multiplayer game mode. It's just an area where you can PvP if you want. You don't have to. It's an interesting concept. It's an area of the map that is considered still contaminated, but it does also contain some of the game's best loot. but it's all contaminated. So once you go in there, the enemies are tougher. You gain more XP. There's a different leveling system in the dark zone than there is out in the regular zone. And any loot that you pick up there has to be extracted, and in order to do that you have to call in a chopper, and it takes, I think, a minute and a half for the chopper to show up, and then you have to attach your contaminated gear to the helicopter, and it takes it back to your base of operations where it's decontaminated, and then the game lets you use that equipment. Now the PvP aspect is, friendly fire is on in the dark zone. So if you're playing with some buddies, you have to be really careful when engaging enemies, because you could shoot your buddies in the back of the head, and all of a sudden, if you, I'm not sure quite how many hit markers you have to tag them with, but after a certain point, you go rogue, and then it's fair game for, I think, 90 seconds. Anyone in the dark zone can take you out without going rogue themselves, and they can take your loot. And when you die in the dark zone, you drop any contaminated loot that you have. You lose a little bit of XP, you lose a little bit of dark zone funds. You can regain that equipment if you get back there in time. So it is a little challenging. People can and will kill you for your goodies. But by and large, my experience has been that everyone's sort of in it together. They all sort of understand it, and everyone's trying to get their loot out. I spent some time Friday night with 3 of my buddies, and we spent a couple hours in the dark zone looting and trying to get our stuff out. Very challenging. We were all about level 9-ish, and we were getting a ton of drops, and we were experiencing some trouble getting the loot out. Typically 1 or 2 of us would get our loot out, but what happens, depending on where the drop zone is once you call in that chopper, any nearby enemies tend to gravitate towards that drop zone. So we were getting bum rushed by at times 6, 7, 8 really powerful bad guys. And they've got sniper overwatch too sometimes. They've got berserker type guys that will just run in at you with a riot shield and an axe and try and take you out. So we had to go through a couple times and respawn a few times to get everyone's loot out, but eventually we did it, and we got some cool stuff. But it's definitely challenging. It has you on the edge of your seat. You really got to coordinate. I don't recommend trying to solo Dark Zone. The enemies are really overpowered. Well, not overpowered, but they're very powerful. They will challenge you, and if you're taking on more than just a couple of them at a time, if you're going solo, you're gonna get screwed. Other players will help you in the dark zone, and that's nice, but don't count on it, I guess is my advice. They could run right by you. They might, use you as a diversion so that they can get their stuff picked up by the chopper. And anytime a chopper's called in, you will hear about it. So if you're running around and you get some gear, it will highlight on your map where the chopper's coming in, and you can get there. Hopefully get your stuff hooked up to the chopper and get it out. It is tough at times, and there are areas of the dark zone that you have to be higher levels to tackle. So it's an interesting take. It's a lot of fun in there, but I think where this game really shines is playing with your friends, playing the campaign, helping each other out, building up your base of operations, and doing that loot grind. This game has not disappointed me at all. I thought it was going to come out a lot sooner than it did, but I'm glad that they waited and they worked it out. I know there were some server issues at launch, but my experience has been that the game's running fine, and I'm not having any problems. There is a season pass available for the game. I believe it's $40. You get some in-game equipment, and I believe there are 3 major DLCs planned for the year. Ubi will be releasing some free content as well, and I believe the first 2 DLCs that are coming out will be free for everyone who has the game. And then I believe the third DLC is going to be, for season pass holders. I'm not sure how much other free content they're going to offer, but the map is already huge, and they're talking about the DLC opening up new sections of New York for you to play in. So I can anticipate this game just, it's gonna be a fun game to play all year long for the rest of the year, and I don't think you'll be disappointed. If you're on the fence about it, I would say buy it. Maybe rent it first, but I think you'll fall in love with it. You can expect that the training mission in Brooklyn will, the missions there, and character creation, you'll probably spend 1 to 2 hours running through that, and then once you get into Manhattan, it's game on. And you can create multiple agents if you really want to, but realistically, the only difference to you, the player, is going to be cosmetically, because you are able to respec as you see fit, unless you really want to, change how you upgrade your base of operations. I really don't see, much reason to create multiple operators. But the ability, the option is there for you if that's what you want to do. To me, this is the best game that's come out so far this year, and is likely going to be at the top of my list for games of 2016. And I believe it's probably going to be on the top of a lot of people's lists for best game of 2016. I really don't see. I haven't played anything else that's come out so far this year that I like better, and I don't. Looking at what's scheduled for the rest of the year, I don't see anything that I think is going to challenge it for the rest of the year. And quite frankly, the amount of fun that I have had playing with my friends and checking out, their outfits and their loadouts and tackling some of these really, really challenging missions, it's really been some of the most fun I've had since, I started playing Destiny before that thing spiraled out of control. Destiny, when it first came out, was awesome, but I feel like they kind of botched that with some of the DLC and whatnot. But this isn't a Destiny review. This is my version of gaming on a budget for the Division, and if you don't have a lot of time to sink into this game, I wouldn't get it. But that's really the only reason why I would say don't get it, is if you don't plan on or want to spend that much time. If you just want some sort of action game that you can rip through in 10, 12 hours, then go somewhere else. But if you're looking for a game that's going to give you a lot of value for the money that you put down, I would say that this is it. It's going to challenge you every step of the way, and you're going to have a ton of fun no matter how tough it seems. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video enough to either subscribe or share it with your friends. At least maybe give it a thumbs up. I would appreciate all that stuff very much, and I look forward to providing you with some more videos in the future, and maybe some different types of videos. I'll probably give you another video on this once we're gonna get our character high level and the next DLC drops. Till then, thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. See ya.